Capital city relocation aims to create new economic center. Observer sees Russia-Ukraine conflict as challenge for Indonesia's G20 presidency. Good evening, it's Thursday, Februari 24, 2022. Market Headlines is ready to provide you information from business and economic. And with me, Fajar Wayong, you're watching Market Headlines. And let's start Market Headlines. Finance Ministry announced that state revenue swelled 54.9% year-on-year to 156.01 trillion rupiah in January 2022, or accounted for 8.5% of this year's state budget revenue target. Finance Minister Sri Mulyani Indrawati revealed that state revenue swelled 54.9% year-on-year from 100.7 trillion rupiah to 156.01 trillion in January this year. In January, state revenue accounted for 8.5% of the state budget revenue target of 1,846.1 trillion rupiah. It comprised tax revenues of 134 trillion and non-tax state revenues of 22 trillion rupiah.
Pendapatan negara mencapai 156 triliun dari target tahun ini 1.846 triliun, atau kita sudah mengumpulkan 8,5% dari target tahun 2022. Tadi sudah saya sampaikan pendapatan negara kita tumbuh 54,9%, kenaikan yang sangat tinggi. Tahun lalu bulan Januari pendapatan negara kita masih mengalami kontraksi 4,2%.
As much as 61.14 trillion rupiah of the tax revenue was sourced from non-oil and gas income tax revenues, 38.4 trillion from value-added tax and sales tax on luxury goods, 0.59 trillion from land and building tax and other taxes, 24.9 trillion rupiah from customs and excise revenues, and 8.95 trillion from oil and gas income tax revenue. Out of all the tax revenues, oil and gas income tax revenues recorded the highest surge of 281.23% year-on-year from 2.35 trillion recorded in January 2021. IDX Channel reports. Bappenas conveyed that the capital city's relocation to East Kalimantan is part of the government's efforts to create a new economic center, which is in line with President's vision on the importance of an Indonesian centrist rather than Java centrist.
Deputy Head of National Development Planning Board for Regional Development, Rudi Prawiradinata, stated that the capital city's relocations from Jakarta to East Kalimantan is part of the government's efforts to create a new economic center. He noted that President Joko Widodo had highlighted the importance of an Indonesian centrist vision, for which the capital city should geographically move further to the center of the country that has huge potential for economic development.
Kita membangun itu Indonesia sentris, bukan Jawa sentris. Nah, inilah salah satu strategi yang diinginkan oleh Bapak Presiden, pindah ke secara geografis ada di tengah, kemudian juga potensi pengembangannya lebih besar, dan kembali yang dipindahkan memang pusat pemerintahnya saja, karena Jakarta tetap sebagai pusat kegiatan ekonomi. Kegiatan itu tidak dipindahkan, tapi kita akan meng-create yang baru di sana.
For 3 to 4 decades, the national economic growth was centered in Java and Sumatra that contributed 80 to 82% to the national economy. Meanwhile, the contributions of Kalimantan, Sulawesi, Maluku, and Papua to the national economy only reached 15%. IDX Channel reports.
Along with massive infrastructure development, Minister of Trade is optimistic that Indonesia's logistic cost can be much lower to only 16% of gross domestic product by 2024.
Minister of Trade Muhammad Lutfi is optimistic that Indonesia's logistics costs can go down to 16% of gross domestic product by 2024. He believes this can be realized along with the massive infrastructure development. Lutfi said that in 2014, Indonesia's logistic costs were still at the level of 26% of GDP. Then, from 2019 to 2022, logistic costs fell to 23% of GDP.
Tetapi nanti menjelang akhir daripada jabatan beliau, di masa jabatan beliau di 2024, itu akan turun menjadi 17-16%, tapi masih 3% lebih mahal daripada Malaysia. Jadi untuk par dengan Malaysia, saya berkeyakinan bahwa teknologi digital akan mempermudah daripada ongkos distribusi dan logistik di Indonesia.
In addition to infrastructure development, he also believes that the development of digital technology can be a factor in reducing distributions and logistic costs in Indonesia. Previously, Minister of State-Owned Enterprises Erick Thohir said that Indonesia's logistic costs were still expensive compared to the world average of 13% of GDP, resulting in Indonesia's logistic costs being less competitive with other countries. IDX Channel reports.
And we're moving on to global update. Ukraine has imposed a state of emergency and told its citizens in Russia to leave immediately. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka imposes rolling power cuts as economic crisis worsens. More stories on today's International Minute. Ukraine has imposed a state of emergency and told its citizens in Russia to leave immediately, as Moscow began evacuating its Kyiv embassy in the latest ominous signs of an all-out Russian military onslaught. Shelling intensified on Wednesday at the line of contact in eastern Ukraine, where Russian President Vladimir Putin recognized the independence of two Moscow-backed rebel regions this week, and where he has ordered the deployment of Russian troops as peacekeepers. Canada has announced new sanctions on Russia in response to the Kremlin's deployment of forces into eastern Ukraine and its recognition of two separatist regions. At a news conference, Trudeau said the first round of economic sanctions will ban Canadians from all financial dealings with the breakaway Ukrainian regions Putin recognized, Donetsk and Luhansk. The sanctions will also target members of the Russian parliament who voted for the decision to recognize the separatist regions. Danone pledged further productivity gains and price increases this year to offset cost inflation after the French food maker beat fourth quarter sales forecast, driving its shares up nearly 4%. Antoine de Saint-Affrique, who took over as chief executive of the world's largest yogurt maker in September, told investors that despite a strong end of the year, much remained to be done to turn the company around. Authorities in Sri Lanka are imposing rolling power cuts across the island nation as its deepening financial crisis leads to shortage of fuel and handicaps its power grid. Sri Lanka's Public Utilities Commission said it will shut off the country's grid for 4.5 hours on Wednesday after 2 hours of power cuts on Monday and Tuesday. Electricity will be switched off on a rotating basis between regions between 8:30 a.m. and 10:30 p.m. according to officials. IDX Channel reports. Indonesia-Britain strengthen trade and investment relations. Market headlines. We'll be right back.
Setiap bulan, saya mensisihkan 100.000 dari gaji untuk nabung saham.
Cara nabung saham nggak ribet, saya aja bisa kok.
Jangan mengandalkan orang tua terus, makanya saya mulai nabung saham.
Yuk kita nabung saham sekarang.
Awali hari Anda dengan beragam informasi bisnis terkini yang kami kemas dalam berita teraktual dan berkualitas. Power Breakfast, informasi terkini seputar ekonomi, bisnis, pasar modal, dan industri kreatif yang dikemas secara ringan. New Screen menyajikan informasi ekonomi, bisnis, dan keuangan. Market Headline menayangkan berita ekonomi dan bisnis dalam bahasa Inggris. Saksikan program-program berita ekonomi dan bisnis terkini langsung dari sumbernya, live hanya di IDX Channel. Your Trustworthy Economic, Business, and Capital Market Channel. Perbincangan hangat tentang isu dan kebijakan ekonomi terkini yang diulas secara mendalam bersama narasumber terpercaya. Market Review, Senin sampai Jumat, jam 10 waktu Indonesia bagian Barat, hanya di IDX Channel.
Kewaspadaan terhadap penyebaran Omikron harus terus diperketat.
Ya, hal ini sebagai antisipasi dari masuknya virus varian lainnya ke Indonesia.
Awali hari Anda dengan informasi dunia ekonomi yang diulas dari berbagai sudut pandang. Simak pula analisa pasar modal dan inspirasi bisnis dari berbagai perusahaan rintisan. Power Breakfast, Senin sampai Jumat, jam 8.30, hanya di IDX Channel.
Welcome back on Market Headlines. Tensions between Ukraine and Russia, which are on the verge of war, are considered to have an impact on Indonesia. International relations observer Muhadi Sugiono considers the current Ukraine-Russia conflict will be a challenge for Indonesia's leadership in the G20. Tensions between Ukraine and Russia, which are on the verge of war, are considered to have an impact on Indonesia. International relations observer from Gadjah Mada University, Muhadi Sugiono, considers the current Ukraine-Russia conflict to be a challenge for Indonesia's leadership in the G20. According to him, it will be a challenge in itself to lead a large group that is hostile. Meanwhile, the conflict between Moscow and Kyiv involves not only Russia and Ukraine, but also the United States, the European Union, and NATO. Most of the conflict parties are also members of the G20. According to Muhadi, Indonesia's leadership capability in the G20 is a calculation in the current situation, especially how to ensure that countries that are hostile to each other do not affect the G20 agenda that has been designed. Meanwhile, Muhadi stated that the direct impact of the crisis in Ukraine on Indonesia would not be felt. However, if the conflict between Russia and Ukraine extends to even war, this could affect the global economy and ultimately affect Indonesia. Through the G20, Indonesia is also expected to be able to make cooperation in the global order more conducive, because according to Muhadi, the rivalry between Russia and China and the United States will not end in the Ukraine crisis. IDX Channel reports. Indonesian Trade Minister met with British Minister of International Trade in Jakarta as part of efforts to strengthen trade and investment relations. The meeting was held as part of the Indonesia-United Kingdom Joint Economy and Trade Committee, which was agreed upon in April 2021.
Indonesian Trade Minister Muhammad Lutfi met with British Minister of International Trade and Mangivera Tjong in Jakarta as part of efforts to strengthen trade and investment relations between the two nations.
JETCO is an annual ministerial dialogue platform with the objective for enhancing our bilateral trade and investment relations. We also established, during this meeting also, we discussed various issues, including the state of bilateral trade relations, potential cooperations in the sector of renewable energy, as well as food, beverage and agriculture, and our engagement in G20 and WTO, and lastly, the next steps of what the two countries can do in the near future.
Meantime, according to Travelin, the total value of trade between Indonesia and Britain has reached 2.6 billion pounds sterling. She said that the British government is keen to strengthen JETCO and look at the great potential for cooperations between the two countries.
The UK and Indonesia already have a £2.6 billion trading relationship. That's almost 60 trillion Indonesian rupiah. But we estimate British businesses employ 1 million people in Indonesia, and Indonesia is going from strength to strength. So we think there is huge potential for us to develop our trade and investment relationship.
The two countries have also set up 2 working groups to follow up on cooperation agreements in the fields of green energy, foods, beverage, and agriculture. It is hoped that through the working groups, the two countries will be able to reach contract agreements, including a free trade agreement in the future. IDX Channel reports.
Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs revealed that the new and renewable energy industry was one of the main sectors that supported Indonesia's positive economic growth in 2021.
The new and renewable energy industry was one of the main sectors that supported Indonesia's positive economic growth in 2021, according to Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs Erlangga Hartarto. The green economy has become the government's main strategy for medium and long-term economic transformations for expediting economic recovery as well as encouraging inclusive and sustainable development.
PDB Real Indonesia sudah lewat level pra-pandemi, di mana kita sudah masuk ke dalam upper middle income country. Dan dorongan positif juga datang dari sektor usaha yang terkait dengan energi baru dan terbarukan. Blended finance yang tentunya perlu didorong tidak hanya dari pemerintah namun juga dari swasta dan juga dari lembaga-lembaga donor internasional, utamanya untuk kelestarian alam.
Green financing should not only be implemented through the state budget or the issuance of green debt securities and green sukuk, but it should also be extended to various other financial instruments, he said. The Environmental Fund Management Agency is also expected to encourage the development of transparent carbon trading. He also added that the government has continued to strive to increase green financing cooperations with various international institutions. IDX Channel reports.
The government will apply 11% value-added tax rate starting April 2022. And regarding the higher VAT rate, the government ensures that its impact on inflation will be minimal. The government will immediately increase the value-added tax rate to 11% from the current 10% starting April 1st, 2022. This provision is contained in the Law on Harmonization of Tax Regulations. Regarding the higher VAT rate, the government ensures that the impact on inflation will be minimal, so there is no need to worry.
Nanti terkait dengan tarif PPN yang akan naik dari 10 menjadi 11%, kita sudah estimasi bahwa dampaknya terhadap inflasi itu masih akan cukup minimal.
Furthermore, the government plans to raise the VAT rate again to 12%. The plan is that this tariff will take effect from January 1st, 2025. However, the government is still open to the option that the VAT rate of 11% in 2022 and 12% in 2025 can be changed to a tariff range scheme. The range is the lowest 5% and the highest 15%. IDX Channel reports. Merdeka Copper Gold's net profit decreased slightly in 2021 after the break on market headlines.
Presidente della Repubblica di Indonesia.
Presidensi G20 di Indonesia akan mendorong
upaya bersama untuk pemulihan ekonomi dunia dengan tema Recover Together, Recover Stronger. Kami akan menjamu Yang Mulia dan Bapak Ibu di hamparan pantai Bali yang indah yang menginspirasi gagasan-gagasan inovatif untuk produktivitas G20 ke depan. Sampai bertemu di Indonesia, terima kasih.
Kumpulan berita ekonomi dan bisnis dari dalam negeri. Senin sampai Jumat pukul 14.30 hanya di IDX Channel. Perbincangan hangat tentang isu dan kebijakan ekonomi terkini yang diulas secara mendalam bersama narasumber terpercaya. Market Review, Senin sampai Jumat jam 10 waktu Indonesia bagian Barat hanya di IDX Channel.
Kewaspadaan terhadap penyebaran Omikron harus terus diperketat.
Ya, hal ini sebagai antisipasi dari masuknya virus varian lainnya ke Indonesia.
Awali hari Anda dengan informasi dunia ekonomi yang diulas dari berbagai sudut pandang. Simak pula analisa pasar modal dan inspirasi bisnis dari berbagai perusahaan rintisan. Power Breakfast, Senin sampai Jumat, jam 8.30, hanya di IDX Channel.
You're watching Market Headlines. At the Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement earlier today, JCI was opened at the level of 6,912.47. And then approaching the closing time on the first session, the index was on the level of 6,807.44. And then the index was showing weakening trend by the second session closing time. Index was closed at the level of 6,817.82. And in short, Jakarta Composite Index went down 1.48%. And next, we're going to see the sectoral movement. Leading the dynamics of today's trading, we got energy as the leader of strengthening trend that went up 2.23%. Industry went up 0.75%. Transportation and logistics as the leader of weakening trend went down 4.93%, and finance went down 2.42%. And moving on to top gainers and top losers, here are the key highlights from today's trading session. Adaro went up 6.9% to the level of 2,480 rupiah per share. Aneka Tambang went up 0.91% to the level of 2,220 rupiah per share. ITMG went up 12.51% to the level of 26,975 rupiah per share. And Medco went up 13.39% to the level of 635 rupiah per share. And meantime, the top losers for today's trading, we got BBCA went down 0.62% to the level of 8,000 rupiah. BBRI went down 2.01% to the level of 4,390 rupiah per share. Arto went down 4.23% to the level of 15,275 rupiah per share. And Bank Negara Indonesia went down 1.26% to the level of 7,825 rupiah per share. And let's see the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. Open at the level of 14,359 rupiah, showing strengthening trend towards US dollar. And rupiah was closed at the level of 14,377, and in summary, rupiah went up 0.47%. Despite higher revenue, Merdeka Copper Gold experienced a decrease in net profit. The company posted net profit of $36.15 million, or down by 0.16%. Last year, despite the increase in revenue, Merdeka Copper Gold actually experienced a decrease in net profit. The company posted a net profit of $36.13 million throughout 2021. This realization decreased slightly by 0.16% from net profit in 2020 of $36.19 million. This decrease in net profit occurred when the company's revenue increased. Merdeka Copper Gold posted operating revenues of $380.95 million or up 18.36% from revenue in 2020 of $321.86 million. In detail, revenue was dominated by sales of gold, silver, and copper cathodes to third parties in the export market, which reached $359.75 million. This was followed by sales to the domestic market worth $16.55 million, and the realization of hedging valued at $2.89 million. The company also received other income of $1.75 million. IDX Channel reports. Solusi Bangun Indonesia managed to record positive financial performance throughout 2021. The company's net profit increased by 10.75%, while revenue increased by 10.98%. Solusi Bangun Indonesia managed to record positive financial performance throughout 2021. This can be seen from the company's net profit, which was recorded at 721 billion rupiah and revenue of 11.21 trillion rupiah. The company's net profit increased by 10.75%, while revenue increased by 10.98% compared to 2020. President Director of Solusi Bangun Indonesia, Lilik Unggul Raharjo, say that in business terms, although it has not been able to recover compared to before the pandemic, domestic cement consumption has increased by 4.3% to 65.2 million tons. The export market rose 23.2% to 11.4 million tons. Although overshadowed by various tough challenges in 2021, the synergy with Cement Indonesia has succeeded in helping the company maintain a positive performance by achieving a total sales volume of cement and slag of 13.4 million tons. IDX Channel reports. Dharma Satya Nusantara's net profit jumped 53% to 727 billion rupiah until the end of 2021. Compared to the same period last year of 476.63 billion rupiah. Dharma Satya's management said the increase in net profit was in line with sales growth from 6.69 trillion to 7.12 trillion rupiah. The increase was also supported by a decrease in general and administrative expenses as well as other expenses. Previously, the company allocated this year's capital expenditure in the range of 700 to 800 billion rupiah. One of these capital expenditures is used to complete the construction of 2 new palm oil mills. Meantime, the management explained that this year the company's performance will depend on the movement of crude palm oil prices. And the news close our market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, your trustworthy economic, business and capital market channel. I'm Fajar Wayong. Have a nice evening and stay safe.
Selamat pagi, Pras.
Ya, selamat pagi juga, Prisa.
Senang sekali kita pagi hari ini dalam cuaca yang cukup cerah begitu ya, kembali hadir menemani pemirsa dalam Power Breakfast. Ada informasi menarik nih, Pras, terkait dengan Unilever. Tahu dong Unilever?
Betul.
Ini kan sudah listing di bursa, tetapi ada usulan untuk delisting atau go private karena harga sahamnya yang terus merosot dari 11 ribuan nih, Pras. Sekarang tinggal 3.800. Kamu sendiri kira-kira kalau misalnya Unilever go private sama kayak SCBD, kemudian juga ada Aqua mungkin 2011 juga kan delisting.
Ya sebenarnya sayang sih, karena kalau kita lihat